Okay, it's day 101, and I'm going to try for a simplified version of version 3 yesterday. So I'm going to have this can-do 7-inch uranium fuel rod here represent highly enriched uranium. So this is not, I'm just using this as a symbol. But this is coming into the United States beginning in 1993. There's 550 tons of it coming in from Russia. Now I believe it came from the port of St. Petersburg, and it went and stopped in Belgium on its way here to the United States, and then came in to the port of Savannah. Again, I need to check that, but I do have documentation a little bit later, 2005, of this company called Transportation Logistics, or Transport Logistics, excuse me, and the CEO talking about it coming into this port. I believe that's where it was from the beginning of the program. So it trickles in and then gradually goes up into 2000, into the early 2000s for the first 10 years. And I think about half of this, two of this, let's say this is 125 tons each, two of these come in the first 10 years, and there's two more kind of left to still come in. I'm not sure exactly where we stand on how many, if the program is over or not. But the bottom line is, here it's coming into San Diego. Here's your nuclear school. Here's all your Navy investment folks. These are smart cookies. They know all about nuclear technology. They know the uses of this nuclear technology for not only military use, but they also know, because of their connection with the national laboratories, the FBI and double NSA, they know about other uses for it too, like small reactors for both military and commercial purposes, for mining applications in oil and other remote applications. So here it comes. This is extremely valuable. It's at least $60,000 an ounce. I think it's actually worth more than that. The $8 million quarter pounder is the visual that I've chosen. And you could just say, hey, if we have a secure place to store this, let's store this for a while and maybe backfill. So there's a backfill strategy maybe. So you have a customer that's going to be buying all this fuel. Remember, you don't need 90% uranium. You only need to supply maybe 2% uranium, maybe 3%. We can check with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission exactly, and we are, with exactly what the fuel levels were. But if you could falsify or fudge or fake the paperwork, we've seen that before, down here as uranium-1, you could keep this stuff and basically resell it for these other uses, higher uses, which is like the nuclear reactors or the small reactors, the Navy reactors or the small reactors. Okay, so that's so let's say you have a vault. Clarksburg, West Virginia is where I think it is. Other people speculate it's at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. Other people say it started at Oak Ridge and then moved to the FBI Center in Clarksburg so they could have a more secure hold on this. We can argue about all those things, but I think it's going to be one of those two places that it's held until it finds a use like this for a Navy reactor for U.S. Navy or the English Navy, potentially other navies around the world, in the Middle East as well. We just don't know the details of that. We need to drill down. Same thing for the reactors. This is going to be a little bit more of a Q level clearance type program, and again, probably NATO allies first, and then these other type of near allies like Pakistan and India and so forth second. Or it could be the other way around. It could be the near allies first, because there's all kinds of regulation in the NATO partners, and then NATO partners after that. So we don't know that either. We can see there's a lot of opportunities, and you can see already, if you're John Podesta, your eyes are lighting up. It's like, whoa, we got a lot of pay to play here to work with just in the nuclear piece. Forget about any of the more traditional things that the Pakistan would do, like drugs and weapons, being the supplier of weapons to ISIS. Again, that's the original Iran-Contra concept, going all the way back to Stokes' dad. So Stokes' dad, Peter Stokes' dad, and his name really is P.P. Stokes. So I don't know how to make it not P.P. Stokes, but it is. P.P. Stokes is the guy who, don't make this yellow cake uranium going to Iran, make it weapons going to Iran. And the way they paid for it was being a drug pipeline through Turkey, primarily. 80% of the opiates came through Turkey. But that's who we're talking about. The whole Stokes concept is not Peter Stokes Jr., it's Peter Stokes Sr. He's the one who developed all of these tribes here, the Kurds, all those tribes that we're talking about now that kind of get trained in Iran from the Hezbollah type section, all come from P.P. Stokes. Same thing on the humanicide for the Hamas type of development. So again, you want to sell weapons either to legal governments or illegal governments. This is where you start, and this is Peter Strzok's. Now that's why I say Andy McCabe is very close to this activity. Now you look the other way. I'm not saying that Andy McCabe directly looks at the drug business, but Bruce Orr, who is managing the overseas task force on drugs, is constantly working with him and sharing text messages, as is Strokes, who's in the middle of this whole thing. So you just have to wonder if there is kind of a black market here, not only in uranium but also for weapons and drugs. Okay, so it just stands to reason. So let's look. There's three ways that we're going to do this backfill strategy. We're going to have the first group of people are going to be salesmen, and the salesmen are going to be working on Navy reactors, making those smaller. That's going to be out here at this national laboratory in Idaho, and working on those customers. Okay, the national laboratories here, Sandia, Lawrence Livermore, and also Los Alamos, are going to be working on technologies like this. This is Silex. Okay, so here are the salesmen. They're working on this kind of nuclear reactor, Navy reactors, and they're working on these more mining resources reactors here. Okay, and the first backfill strategy is getting the ore out of the ground. So we have Wyoming. We know that we have the Shinkolobwe mine, probably named because it's so rich. We have Shinkolobwe over in Congo as well as a way of backfilling. We just need to get it to yellowcake, crush it to yellowcake with a Krupnik crusher. Here's Krupnik right here. Again, these aren't people that I'm guessing. They're in joint ventures all over the world, in Africa, etc. We need to bring it down here to spin it. There is, John Podesta is, I believe, involved in this in Eunice, New Mexico, or at least a part of a joint venture down here for these next generation centrifuges. And we spin it and we bring it to our customers here at the TVA. All right. The other thing is we have centrifuge technology in Piketown and centrifuge technology in Paducah, Kentucky. We can gradually bring down Piketown first. Can do a demonstration project there with a whole bunch of centrifuges there, and then maybe move those centrifuges over to the Middle East when we invest in new generation technology, or maybe buy them on the cheap for 10 cents on the dime and buy them out here for the new national, which is privately owned, but we still call it the National Enrichment Center here in New Mexico. So backfill by getting it out of the ground is the first. You can also invest in new technologies from the different national laboratories, Sandia, Los Alamos, and also Livermore. And hopefully that'll come online. Now I think what happened is it just didn't come online. This takes the gas stream it excites the uranium into a gas stream, and then there's 238s one stream and 235s the other, and it just separates off the 235 that we want to keep. I just don't think it ever got to the point of production, and GE and Hitachi bet on that along with a lot of other Navy folks here, and just never got there. And that's why at the end here, that's why you have this up curve in all the mining to do the backfill. I think it explains the backfill. I think it also explains why we do a last minute deal like Gulf Tainer to take this yellow cake out to UAE and try to spin that and then bring it back in to the port of South Carolina to do the backfill, because you're going to have these START talks, and these START talks with nuclear non-proliferation agreements. First thing you do is an audit, and so they've been putting off the audit. Obama has, because you don't want to open the door to Fort Knox and there's no gold there. Same thing, you don't want to open the door at Oak Ridge and there's no uranium there. So I think these wild deals that Jack Lew was doing, and I feel bad for Jack Lew at some point, doing these wacky deals with the UAE nuclear scientists. This is why you do a deal with Jafar, a nuclear specialist, because he knows all about the demand and spinning all this stuff in Iraq, and Iran. So does he do secret reactors in Iraq? Does he do secret reactors in Iran, or secret centrifuges, I should say? We don't really know. The third way is here with waste. If you can reprocess waste, that's another thing that maybe you might not have to get it out of the ground. So you could get waste from out here at Hanford in Washington, or you could get waste from over here at Y12 in Oak Ridge. I think also P9 in Morgantown, West Virginia. There's lots of waste. Waste is 0.6% or 0.5%. But if you have a really efficient technology like Silex, and hopefully Silex works, even low percentages are potentially recoverable. You just need to get it up to 3% to backfill. So waste is another one. The only problem with hoarding waste is you're taking money and getting money for hoarding waste, but you're never actually processing it and storing it. You're either, now you have to dump it at sea, which is I think what happened in the Fukushima situation. Maybe not. Who knows where the waste is? And this is depleted uranium. I'm talking about not actually the chemical waste, all the acids, but I'm talking about the depleted uranium. Now, you can use it for weapons here, and there is a weapons factory here in Jonesburg, I believe, where we had a little bit of an incident with one of our researchers getting intimidated, taking pictures of these UF6 containers on trains starting to move like crazy right now. These containers are moving like crazy because if somebody opens one of those up and it's supposed to be full of 3% uranium or 90% uranium, whatever it's supposed to be full of, and it's full of waste, or it's full of weapons, or it's full of drugs, that's a big problem. So that's happening right now as we speak, and we have people on the ground that are doing that kind of research. So hopefully that gives kind of an overview of the last really 20 years, beginning in 1993 all the way till, 25 years till now. And it explains a lot of the things that end up happening that are crazy, and explains why you would need to go in and infiltrate into. Sorry about that. It explains why you would need to infiltrate into transport logistics over here and buy out transport logistics, because you need to get that. You need to get that yellow cake and do this processing in order to do the backfill. And I think that process is still happening today. And the other thing that it explains is why you have to do crazy things like fusion GPS. You have to take people like Nellie Orr here, who are probably working the resources game as well, because a lot of this stuff, especially the dark, resources where you're using peaceful nuclear explosions, the Russians have done this for years, hundreds and hundreds of peaceful explosions. You would use the Russians as a proxy to do this for oil exploration all around the world. You'd need Russian partners. Now you have to pull her off a very profitable business here and bring her over here to help defend Uranium One. This is why the Uranium One conspirators are so aggressive against Trump. It's either us or Trump. And Nunes by extension. There's no choice here. You have to do crazy, wacky entrapments like the Trump Tower situation with your Russian spies. They were all involved in both parts of the trade. Akhmetshin's going to be involved with Katsev as boss, with all the train business and all the resources going all around the world, the logistics business. And Vitselnitskaya is going to be involved more with the other stuff that I won't talk about right now. So that's for this morning, 101.